30 years ago, there was one employee everyone laughed at. Not because he was lazy, not because he was incompetent. They laughed because he looked ordinary. He was overweight, quiet, socially awkward. The kind of guy nobody noticed unless they wanted a joke. His shirts never seemed to fit quite right. His backpack looked older than some of the interns. Every afternoon, while everyone else ordered expensive lunches, he quietly opened the same plastic lunchbox he had carried for years. People called him the fat guy. Nobody bothered learning his real name. Every joke in the office somehow found its way to his desk. Yet 30 years later, those same people would stand in line, hoping he would remember them. Because while they spent decades trying to look rich, he spent decades becoming rich. His first paycheck was almost disappointing. After taxes, rent, groceries, insurance, transportation, and utilities, almost nothing remained. Most people in his position would have said the same thing. I'll start investing when I make more money. But he asked himself a different question. What if I never learn the habit? That was it. The next morning, before leaving for work, he opened his investment account. He transferred exactly $10 into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. No stock picking, no complicated strategy, no financial guru, just $10. Then he closed the app and went to work. The next day, another $10. The day after, another 10. Soon it became automatic, like brushing his teeth, like putting on his shoes. The amount wasn't important. The habit was. At first, nobody noticed. Then one afternoon, while everyone was discussing the latest stocks and cryptocurrencies in the break room, one coworker looked over his shoulder. Wait, you only invested $10? Within seconds, the room exploded with laughter. Ha ha ha. This has to be the saddest investment portfolio I've ever seen. Another manager walked over with his expensive coffee in one hand and luxury car keys in the other. He smirked. Come on, guys, don't laugh. Maybe in 500 years, he'll finally become a millionaire. Everyone laughed even harder. Someone else pointed at his homemade sandwich. So that's why you bring lunch every day. You can't even afford a burger. I spend more on coffee every morning than this guy invests in his future. The room erupted again. He didn't respond. He simply smiled, closed his investment app, and went back to work. That silence confused people. Most people defend themselves. He never did, because arguing wouldn't increase his portfolio. Investing would. Meanwhile, the office looked like a luxury showroom. One employee leased a brand new Porsche the same week he received a promotion. Another bought a Rolex after getting his annual bonus. Someone else upgraded to a penthouse apartment, simply because everyone at work expected someone at his level to live there. Every Friday looked like a fashion competition. Designer suits, Italian shoes, luxury handbags, the newest iPhone, the newest laptop, the newest everything. Everything financed, everything justified, everything posted on social media. The comments were always the same. Living the dream, goals, you made it. But behind every smiling picture was another monthly payment, another loan, another bill, another financial chain. Our quiet employee watched all of it, not with jealousy, with curiosity. He realized something almost nobody else did. People weren't buying things because they needed them. They were buying approval. Approval from strangers. Approval from coworkers. Approval that disappeared within minutes. The expensive watch impressed people for one day. The payment lasted for years. That realization changed him forever. Instead of increasing his spending every time he received a raise, he increased his investments. 5 years passed. The jokes never stopped. His portfolio still wasn't life-changing. One afternoon, one of the senior executives walked past his desk and laughed. So ... how's your little $10 empire doing? More laughter. He opened his account, looked at the balance, closed it, and quietly answered, "It's growing." The executive couldn't stop smiling. At that speed, you'll retire when you're 100. Everyone laughed. Nobody realized something incredibly important. Compounding always looks unimpressive right before it becomes unstoppable. Think about pushing a massive boulder uphill. The first few feet feel impossible. Every inch requires effort. But once that boulder reaches the top, Gravity takes over. The same thing happens with investing. The beginning feels painfully slow. The middle feels slightly faster. Then one day, your investments begin growing faster than your own contributions. That is the moment everything changes. Most people quit before they ever reach it. Our quiet employee never expected instant results. He expected mathematics to eventually do what emotions never could. Every single day, $10 entered the market. Rain or sunshine, bull market or bear market, good news or bad news. His emotions never voted. His system made the decision. Then the impossible happened. The financial crisis arrived. Markets collapsed. Television anchors looked terrified. Headlines screamed that everything was over. People watched years of gains disappear within weeks. Panic spread through the office. Coworkers gathered around computer screens, watching their retirement accounts fall. One manager sold everything. I can't lose another dollar. Another canceled every future investment. I'm waiting until things feel safe. Again, a third coworker declared that investing was nothing more than gambling. Fear had taken over the building. Everyone expected the quiet employee to panic too. Instead, the next morning, he invested another $10. Nothing changed. The market fell again. Another $10. The headlines became worse. Another $10. Someone finally asked him if he was crazy. He smiled. "No, I'm shopping." They stared at him. He continued, "When my favorite store has a 50% discount ... double quotes, I don't run away. I buy more. So why would I panic when the stock market goes on sale?" Nobody answered, because nobody had ever looked at a market crash that way before. While everyone else saw disaster, he saw opportunity. While everyone else focused on today's prices ... he focused on where those businesses could be decades later. That single difference in thinking would quietly separate his future from everyone else's. Years passed, and the office kept changing. New employees arrived. Old employees left. Managers became directors. Directors became executives. The quiet man stayed exactly the same. His desk was still neat. His lunch still came from home. His old sedan still sat in the parking lot. His investment account still received $10 every single morning. People thought he lacked ambition. The truth was the opposite. He wasn't chasing a bigger paycheck. He was chasing freedom. There is a massive difference between those two goals. A bigger paycheck can disappear overnight. Freedom cannot be taken away once your assets are large enough. Eventually, raises started coming. Not huge ones, just enough to make life a little easier. Most people celebrate a raise by increasing their lifestyle. It's called lifestyle inflation. The moment income rises, expenses rise with it. A nicer apartment, a newer car, more expensive restaurants, better vacations. Before long, the extra income disappears. Our quiet employee made a different decision. Every raise meant one thing: more investing. $10 became $15, then $20. Sometimes he invested more when he received a bonus. But even on difficult months, he never stopped completely. His coworkers never noticed, because they were too busy trying to impress each other. One executive leased a Ferrari after becoming a regional vice president. Another spent nearly $70,000 remodeling a kitchen that already looked perfect. One bought a vacation home he barely visited. Another upgraded to private school because everyone in his neighborhood did the same. Every promotion became another excuse to spend. Every achievement created another monthly payment. Nobody asked the obvious question: what happens if the paycheck stops? Then one afternoon, something happened that nobody expected. The company announced layoffs, not because employees had performed badly, because business had slowed. Fear spread through every hallway. People who had laughed the loudest suddenly looked terrified. One manager had 6 different monthly loan payments. Another admitted he had less than 2 months of savings. Someone earning nearly $250,000 a year confessed that he couldn't survive 90 days without his salary. Think about that. Hundreds of thousands in annual income, but only weeks away from financial disaster. That isn't wealth. That's dependence. The quiet employee wasn't celebrating. He actually felt sorry for them, because he finally understood something most people never do. Many high-income earners are simply high-income spenders. Their lifestyle grows faster than their wealth. Every dollar they earn already has somewhere to go before it even arrives. The layoffs eventually ended. Some people kept their jobs. Others packed their desks into cardboard boxes. One of the loudest bullies walked out carrying 20 years of memories in a single box. The expensive watch was still on his wrist. The luxury car was still parked outside. First time, the office became quiet. The jokes disappeared. Reality had entered the room. That night, our quiet employee sat at home looking at his investment account. The market had fallen sharply. His balance was lower than it had been months earlier. For a brief moment, even he felt doubt. What if everyone else is right? What if this never works? He stared at the screen. Then he remembered something his grandfather had once told him. The strongest trees aren't the ones that never face storms. They're the ones that survive them. He closed the app. The next morning, another investment. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. Slowly. The economy recovered. Companies started growing again. The market climbed higher. Every share he had purchased during the crash became more valuable. The people who sold out of fear had locked in their losses. The man who stayed patient owned more shares than ever before. Then came another challenge. The world shut down. Businesses closed. Airports became empty. Entire cities stood still. The news repeated the same terrifying message every hour. Nobody knew what would happen next. Once again, the market crashed. Phones across the office lit up with panic. People watched retirement accounts lose enormous value. Some couldn't sleep. Others checked their portfolios every 10 minutes. One executive shouted, "I'm done investing forever." Another swore he would never trust the stock market again. The quiet employee heard every word. The following morning, he invested again. Someone finally exploded. "What is wrong with you? Can't you see what's happening?" He calmly answered, "I can. That's exactly why I'm buying." The room fell silent. He continued, "People love shopping when prices go up. I prefer shopping when prices go down." Nobody laughed this time, because deep inside, they knew he wasn't speaking. Later, the recovery began. Then something extraordinary happened. The market didn't just recover. It reached new highs. Companies adapted. Innovation accelerated. Businesses grew stronger. And every share he had quietly accumulated during the panic multiplied in value. Without realizing it, his portfolio crossed a milestone he had dreamed about for years. For the first time, his investments earned more in a single year than his annual salary. He looked at the number several times, not because he wanted to brag, because he couldn't believe what decades of patience had created. He remembered every joke, every insult, every lunch people mocked, every old shirt, every cheap backpack, every time someone called him a loser. He finally understood something. The world laughs at discipline until discipline starts producing results. And by then, it's already too late to copy someone else's 30 years of patience.